Putin is hiding from Ukrainian drones in Valdai, and he no longer even appears in the Moscow region or Sochi. The Russian authorities are sending large numbers of young men who have just turned 18 to the front lines. In Russia, preparations are underway to disconnect Russians from the internet. The Russian Orthodox Church has started claiming that the internet is dangerous for Russians. Lavrov has returned to the air after a long break. Meanwhile, Russians have learned the harsh truth about the so-called unparalleled Lada Iskra sedan. And the breakthrough robot, which was pompously presented in Moscow, ended up a failure. Hello, everyone. My name is Eva Nikolashvili, and this is the program In Trend. Like the video and subscribe because we're getting started. Russian boys under 20 are dying en masse at the front. Well, Russian. Putin feels sorry for Muscovites, so it's young men from Buryatia who are sent to the front. Human rights activists report that 117 natives of Buryatia under the age of 20 have died in the so-called special military operation. And that's only those whose deaths have been confirmed. Some of these guys signed their contracts only in 2025 when they were just 18 or 19 years old. In other words, at the start of Russia's full-scale war against Ukraine, these young men were still sitting at their school desks. Just this year, volunteers have found obituaries for 10 young men, and this list keeps growing. Again, these are only those who have been identified. As human rights activists write, the recruitment of young people in the Republic is driven by low living standards as well as poor education. In addition, local authorities are actively promoting the brand of Putin's Buryat warriors. Some are simply forced to sign such contracts. Lawyers say they are sent to the front through persuasion, deception, or by creating unbearable service conditions. And while 18-year-old boys are dying at the front, Putin, who started this war, has simply run away. The bunker grandpa, who is afraid of even the slightest danger, fled from Ukrainian drones from the Moscow region to Valdai. This was discovered by the Sistema project. It turns out that almost all the events that Putin supposedly held this year at his official residence in Novo-Ogaryovo near Moscow actually took place in Valdai. And Putin did not appear in the Moscow region from January to September. Putin also avoids Sochi. The Kremlin tried to hide the dictator's cowardice. Putin has several almost identical offices in different locations where he holds meetings, receives officials, and records video addresses. But some details of the interior still differ. In some offices, the line on the wall doesn't match up. The TV stand legs are different. The desk sets vary, and even the number of ventilation holes and other such small details are not the same. And while Putin is hiding from drones, Russian deputies are hiding from criminal liability. As journalists have found out, every 10th member of the Russian parliament may be connected to criminal activity. According to journalists, 42 out of 443 State Duma deputies and 21 out of 179 members of the Federation Council, a total of 63 deputies, have had problems with the law. Of these, more than half, 37 people, actually obtained deputy or senator mandates specifically to avoid criminal prosecution. And these are the people who still have something to say about Ukraine and the supposedly illegitimate Ukrainian government. Meanwhile, Lavrov has been brought back onto the stage. The Kremlin's workhorse has returned to the air after a long break. As we told you earlier, this was probably connected to the fact that the head of the Russian Foreign Ministry said, or more accurately, was rude to Rubio during their previous meeting. As a result of this diplomatic embarrassment, the meeting between Trump and Pew was cancelled. At the time, it was reported that Pina was very angry with the head of the Russian Foreign Ministry and that Lavrov was almost being accused of sabotage. So what did Lavrov say in his new comment? In reality, nothing memorable. The usual dose of nonsense. The head of the Russian Foreign Ministry once again started talking about the conditions under which the Kremlin would end the war. On the agenda, as always, are denazification and demilitarization.
But they know our position perfectly well. They have, as I have already mentioned, our official position on paper. It's not a secret at all. It was voiced by President Putin in June 2024 when he spoke at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, outlining our fundamental approaches regarding Ukraine and our relations with the West, and among other absolutely essential conditions for a settlement are things like demilitarization, the elimination of any threats to the Russian Federation, including by dragging Ukraine into NATO, the protection of the rights of Russians and Russian speakers, and the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. There are also demands for denazification.
An explosion occurred in Krasnogorsk, not far from Moscow. According to social media reports, a banknote filled with money exploded. The explosive was wrapped inside it with a power equivalent to 10 grams of TNT. I can't share all the details of the incident due to YouTube's sensitivity, but I will tell you what happened afterward. If you had any doubts, of course Russians saw a Ukrainian connection in this incident. The children's ombudsman of the Moscow region, Mishonova, was quick to declare that the IED in Krasnogorsk was, of course, made by Ukrainians. They are talking about provocations from Ukraine. But as always, there is no evidence whatsoever. And when something like this happens, it means one thing. The Russians themselves are staging provocations in order to later blame the Ukrainians. This is a traditional Kremlin tactic. This is how they try to show that Ukraine poses a threat and that war is necessary. At the same time, they intimidate Russians. After all, it's always easier to control frightened people. And this is already working in Russia. Frightened Russians are afraid to pick up any objects from the ground. In Mytino, for example, a bundle of money with a gift ribbon was found. Fearing it might be an explosive device, witnesses immediately called the police, but the bomb squad found nothing suspicious inside the bundle. I can imagine how disappointed the finders were. And what do you think? Why does Russia stage such provocations, and what are they trying to achieve? Share your thoughts in the comments, and also let us know which countries and cities you're watching this video from and whether people there support the Ukrainians' fight against the empire of evil. I really enjoy reading all your comments. Then don't forget to like this video and be sure to subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Russian propagandists don't know how to react to the shelling of Ukraine's energy infrastructure. Some Kremlin lackeys insist that Russia supposedly does not terrorize the civilian population. They claim that the Russian army is not at all trying to make life unbearable for Ukrainians.
Because Ukraine's energy sector still manages to hold on thanks to nuclear generation. That is, there are 3 power plants that provide a fairly large amount of electricity, but it's direct current, which can't be maneuvered. Both thermal and hydroelectric power plants are needed to increase or decrease the flow of electricity, and so their loss makes everything dependent. That is, then you have to regulate things by implementing blackouts. And that's why now, all across Ukraine, Centrenergo and Ukrenergo are making statements that during these days, certain areas, well, some districts will be without power. Somewhere it will be off for an hour, somewhere for a whole day, and so on. And what you're talking about is heat. Heat is a separate issue. And I must say that Russia does not set itself the goal of making life unbearable for the Ukrainian population. Russia does not target the Ukrainian population. And these are, let's say, indirect consequences for civilians.
Others, on the contrary, welcome Russia's strikes and call for more attacks on Ukraine's energy infrastructure.
But if you hit like this 2 or 3 times, then it will lead to, well, that's good. It will lead to Ukraine just shutting down, just like that, shutting down. And not just sewage, not just heat, not just electricity, everything will shut down completely?
Well, 60% of the electricity is nuclear.
What do you think? Have they distributed different manuals? But in the Russian Orthodox Church, there's just one manual for all times, against everything good for everything bad. Exactly in that order. Now, the KGB priests are unhappy with the internet. And it's all because people have the opportunity to study things on their own instead of listening to the voice of the church. The priests consider this to be a huge danger.
I think the biggest and most serious problem is really disobedience to the church. A Christian, when a person possesses access to the internet, has something else. Yes, they can somehow study things on their own, but not listen to the voice of the church, the one that is here and now, in the present moment. Yes, I think disobedience to the church and to the church rules and sort of stewing in your own opinions, that's probably the most dangerous thing right now. Yes, exactly. And probably an addiction to the internet, to social networks, when a person's heart is there and not in Christ.
And do you know why the internet has actually become undesirable for the Kremlin and as a result for the Russian Orthodox Church? Because it's impossible to hide the truth there. For example, on Russian TV, they insist that import substitution is the best thing that has happened to Russians. Russia doesn't need anything from the West. And only on the internet can you see what this so-called import substitution really looks like. Here, for example, is the much-touted Lada Iskra. Russian journalists talk about how this sedan outperforms its competitors. In reality, it's a fiasco. Owners complain that after just 2,000 kilometers, the Iskra's electronics start to fail. After a month of use, the car's heating, windshield washer, rear parking sensors, and other features stop working. The reason is that at Avtovaz they mixed up the fuses during assembly. And on Russian TV, they also love to talk about advanced technologies that supposedly exist only in Russia. But here too, it's a fiasco. In Moscow, they unveiled Russia's first anthropomorphic robot. The creators claim that it could move around, handle objects, and interact with people. The presentation was pompous. The robot came out to the Rocky soundtrack. For the first 15 seconds, everything was more or less fine. It even waved. And then the robot just fell over. Take a look at this masterpiece. The developers tried to make excuses, saying that the fall was due to test settings and that the project is still in the trial phase. What do you think? We believe you. And finally, a story about Ukraine's pride. 7-year-old Zlatoslava Veres won the World Ballroom Dancing Championship. The competition was held in Assen, Netherlands. The young Ukrainian girl earned the title of World Champion in the open ballroom solo category for participants under 8 years old. Zlatoslava, we are proud of you. Olya, don't move. Your hand.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.